Welcome back. So I'm here with chapter 5 of Propaganda by Edward Bernays. And this is quite a long chapter, so I might take it in two parts. I've been reading this because it's an insightful read. It's a book from like decades ago. I read it back in the day when I think I was at university, which was like 20 something years ago. And I recently picked it up again just out of curiosity. It's called Propaganda. And many people call Edward Bernays the author of public relations. So we're going to go to chapter 5, Business and the Public. The relationship between business and the public has become closer in the past few decades. Business today is taking the public into partnership. A number of causes, some economic, others due to the growing public understanding of business and the public interest in business, have produced this situation. Business realizes that its relationship with the public is not confined to the manufacture and sale of a given product, but includes at the same time the selling of itself and of all those things for which it stands in the public mind. 20 or 25 years ago, business sought to run its own affairs, regardless of the public. The reaction was the muck-racking period, and in which a multitude of sins were justly and unjustly laid to the charge of the interests. In the face of an aroused public conscience, the large corporations were obliged to renounce their contention that their affairs were nobody's business. If today big business were to seek to throttle the public, a new reaction similar to that of 20 years ago would take place, and the public would rise and try to throttle big business with restrictive laws. Business is conscious of the public's conscience. This consciousness has led to a healthy cooperation. Another cause for the increasing relationship is undoubtedly to be found in the various phenomena growing out of mass production. Mass production is only profitable if its rhythm can be maintained. That is, if it can continue to sell its product in steady or increasing quantity. The result is that while under the handicraft or small unit system of production that was typical a century ago, demand created the supply. Today, supply must actively seek to create its corresponding demand. A single factory, potentially capable of supplying a whole continent with its particular product, cannot afford to wait until the public asks for its product. It must maintain constant touch through advertising and propaganda with the vast public in order to assure itself the continuous demand, which alone will make its costly plant profitable. Ooh, social media influencers. Okay. This entails a vastly more complex system of distribution than formerly. To make customers is the new problem. One must understand not only his own business, the manufacturer of a particular product, but also the structure, the personality, the prejudices of a potentially universal public. Still, another reason is to be found in the improvements in the technique of advertising as regards both the size of the public, which can be reached by the printed word, and the methods of appeal. Much more than printed word now. The growth of newspapers and magazines, having a circulation of millions of copies, and the art of the modern advertising expert in making the printed message attractive and persuasive have placed the businessman in a particular relation, in a personal relation with a vast and diversified public. Another modern phenomenon which influences the general policy of big business is the new competition between certain firms and the remainder of the industry to which they belong. Another kind of competition is between whole industries in their struggle for a share of the consumer's dollar. When, for example, a soap manufacturer claims that his product will preserve youth, he is obviously attempting to change the public's mode of thinking about soap in general, a thing of grave importance to the whole industry. Or when the metal furniture industry seeks to convince the public that it is more desirable to spend its money for metal furniture than for wood furniture, it is clearly seeking to alter the taste and standards of a whole generation. In either case, business is seeking to inject itself into the lives and customs of millions of persons. Even in a basic sense, business is becoming dependent on public opinion. With the increasing volume and wider diffusion of wealth in America, thousands of persons now invest in industrial stocks, new stock or bond flotations upon which an expanding business must depend for its success can be effected only if the concern has understood how to gain the confidence and goodwill of the general public. Public relations. Business must express itself and its entire corporate existence so that the public will understand and accept it. It must dramatize its personality and interpret its objectives in every particular in which it comes into contact with the community or the nation of which it is a part. An oil corporation which truly understand its many-sided relations to the public will offer that public not only good oil but a sound labor policy. A bank will seek to show not only that its management is sound and conservative, but also that its officers are honourable, both in their public and in their private life. A store specializing in fashionable men's clothing will express in its architecture the authenticity of the goods it offers. A bakery will seek to impress the public with the hygienic care observed in its manufacturing process, not only by wrapping its loaves in dust-proof paper and throwing its factory open to public inspection, but also by the cleanliness and attractiveness of its delivery wagons. A construction firm will take care that the public knows not only that its buildings are durable and safe, but also that its employees, when injured at work, are compensated. At whatever point a business enterprise impinges on the public consciousness, it must seek to give its public relations the particular character which will conform to the objectives which it is pursuing. Just as a production manager must be familiar with every element and detail concerning the materials with which he is working, so the man in charge of a firm's public relations must be familiar with the structure, the prejudices, and the whims of the general public, and must handle his problems with the utmost care. The public has its own standards and demands and habits. You may modify them, but you dare not run counter to them. Interesting. But can't you dictate them? Okay, let's carry on. You cannot persuade a whole generation of women to wear long skirts, but you may, by working through leaders of fashion, persuade them to wear evening dresses which are long in back. Okay, the public is not an amorphous mass which can be molded at will or dictated to. Yes, it is. Both business and the public have their own personalities which must somehow be brought into friendly agreement. Conflict and suspicion are injurious to both. Modern business must study on what terms the partnership can be made amicable and mutually beneficial. It must explain itself, its aims, its objectives to the public in terms which the public can understand and is willing to accept. Business does not willingly accept dictation from the public. It doesn't? Okay. It should not accept that it can dictate to the public. While the public should appreciate the great economic benefits which business offers, thanks to mass production and scientific marketing, business should also appreciate that the public is becoming increasingly discriminative in its standards and should seek to understand its demands and meet them. So we've obviously come a long way since then. And I think things have probably been realized as Bernays suspected. The relationship between business and the public can be healthy only if it is the relationship of give and take. It is this condition and necessity which has created the need for a specialized field of public relations. Business now calls in the Public Relations Council to advise it, to interpret its purpose to the public, and to suggest those modifications which may make it conform to the public demand. The modifications then recommended to make the business conform to its objectives and to the public demand may concern the broadest matters of policy or the apparently most trivial details of execution. It might, in one case, be necessary to transform entirely the lines of goods sold to conform to changing public demands. In another case, the trouble may be found to lie in such small matters as the dress of the clerks. A general store a jewelry store may complain that its patronage is shrinking upward because of its reputation for carrying high-priced goods. In this case, the Public Relations Council might suggest a featuring of medium-priced goods, even at a loss, not because the firm decides a large medium-priced trade as such, but because of 100 medium-priced customers acquired today, a certain percentage will be well-to-do 10 years from now. So that's when you're sort of calculating and forecasting. A department store which is seeking to gather in the high-class trade may be urged to employ college graduates as clerks or to engage well-known modern artists to design show windows or special exhibits. A bank may be urged to open a Fifth Avenue branch, not because the actual business done on Fifth Avenue warrants the expense, but because beautiful Fifth Avenue office correctly expresses the kind of appeal which it wishes to make to future depositors. And viewed in this way, it may be as important that the doorman be polite or that the floors be kept clean as that the branch manager be an able financier. Yet the beneficial effect of this branch might be cancelled if the wife of the president is involved in a scandal. Big business studies every move which may express its true personality. It seeks to tell the public in all appropriate ways by the direct advertising message and by the subtlest aesthetic suggestion the quality of the goods or services which it has to offer. A store which seeks a large sales volume in cheap goods will preach prices day in and day out, concentrating its whole appeal on the ways in which it can save money for its clients. But a store seeking a high margin of profit on individual sales will try to associate itself with the distinguished and the elegant, whether by an exhibition of old masters or through the social activities of the owner's wife. The public relations activities of a business cannot be a protective colouring to hide its real aims. It is bad business as well as bad morals to feature exclusively a few high-class articles when the main stock is of medium grade or cheap, for the general impression given is a false one. I'm laughing because we know that's how it's used and utilized now. But okay, a sound public relations policy. This is where ethics come in, but a sound public relations policy will attempt to stampede the public with exaggerated claims and false pretenses, but to interpret the individual business vividly and truly through every avenue that leads to public opinion. The New York Central Railroad has for decades sought to appeal to the public not only on the basis of the speed and safety of its trains, but also on the basis of their elegance and comfort. It is appropriate that the corporation should have been personified to the general public in the person of so suave and ingratiating a gentleman as Chauncey M. Depew, an ideal window dressing for such an enterprise. Chauncey. Oh, I love that name now. Chauncey will be the name of my next pet. Okay, while the concrete recommendations of the Public Relations Council may vary infinitely according to individual circumstances, his general plan of work may be reduced to two types, which I might term continuous interpretation and dramatization by high spotting. The two may be alternative or may be pursued concurrently. Continuous interpretation is achieved by trying to control every approach to the public mind in such a manner that the public receives the desired impression, often without being conscious of it. I'm raising my eyebrows because we know this is how it works. High spotting, on the other hand, vividly seizes the attention of the public and fixes it upon some detail or aspect which is typical of the entire enterprise. When a real estate corporation, which is erecting a tall office building, makes it 10 feet taller than the highest skyscraper in existence, that is dramatization. Which method is indicated, or whether both be indicated concurrently, can be determined only after a full study of objectives and specific possibilities. Another interesting case of focusing public attention on the virtues of a product was shown in the case of gelatine. Its advantages in increasing the digestibility and nutritional value of milk were proven in the Mellon Institute of Industrial Research. The suggestion was made and carried out that to further this knowledge, gelatin be used by certain hospitals and school systems to be tested out there. The favourable results of such tests were then projected to other leaders in the field, with the result that they followed that group leadership and utilised gelatin for the scientific purpose which had been proven to be sound at the research institution. The idea carried momentum. The tendency of big business is to get bigger. We know that through mergers and monopolies, it is constantly increasing the number of persons with whom it is in contact. All this has intensified and multiplied the public relationships of business. The responsibilities are of many kinds. There is a responsibility to the stockholders, okay, numbering perhaps 5 persons or 500,000 who have entrusted their money to the concern and have the right to know how the money is being used, shareholders. A concern which is fully aware of its responsibility towards its stockholders will furnish them with frequent letters urging them to use a product in which their money is invested and use their influence to promote its sale. It has a responsibility toward the dealer, which it may express by inviting him at its expense to visit the home factory. It has responsibility toward the industry as a whole, which should restrain it from making exaggerated and unfair selling claims. It has a responsibility toward the retailer and will see to it that its salesmen express the quality of the product which they have to sell. There is a responsibility toward the consumer who is impressed by a clean and well-managed factory open to his inspection, and the general public, apart from its function as potential consumer, is influenced in its attitude toward the concern by what it knows of that concern's financial dealings, its labor policy, even by the livableness of the houses in which its employees dwell. There is no detail too trivial to influence the public in a favourable or unfavourable sense. The personality of the president may be a matter of importance, for he perhaps dramatises the whole concern to the public mind. It may be very important to what charities he contributes, in what civic societies he holds office. If he is a leader in his industry, the public may demand that he be a leader in his community. The businessman has become a responsible member of the social group. It is not a question of ballyhoo, of creating a picturesque fiction for public consumption. It is merely a question of finding the appropriate modes of expressing the personality that is to be dramatized. Some businessmen can be their own best public relations counsel, but in the majority of cases, knowledge of the public mind and of the ways in which it will react to an appeal is a specialized function which must be undertaken by the professional expert. And because I'm trying to stay under 20 minutes, I'm going to end quite neatly there on this chapter, which is chapter 5 of Propaganda by Edward Bernays. I'm going to make sure I've put a post-it there to mark it. And I will definitely be back with another reading of this. It is insightful reading, whether you're interested in media literacy on my media literacy channel or public relations on my PR channel. So there you go. That's that. And thank you so much for your time and listening. And if you haven't already subscribed, then please do consider to do so. I am Serena, and if you don't already know, I have 20-something years in public relations, comms, and media. I am a systems thinker. I'm a media and politics commentator, and I can be normally quite high energy, but I'm coming to the end of my, I think, maybe 18 hours of fasting, because I intermittent fast now, she says. I think I've vlogged about it as well on my separate vlogging channel, and goodness me, sometimes I can be so energized and I can go for longer, and other times I'm like, I'm zapped now, and it's time for me to sip some of this black coffee because there's no milk, no sugar in it, and bid you adieu, and then go make some eggs. So I appreciate you listening. I hope the eggs bit didn't put you off, but I appreciate you listening. I'd love to hear from you, and see you in the next one.